AskReddit by Islamic anime. Older women of Reddit, what is something young women are doing that puzzles you? Buccal fat removal surgery. They're gonna regret that shit till Mayo. The overdone lip injections. I can't wait for this trend to die. I'm 26. I went to high school with a girl who has lip fillers, and every time I see a picture of her, those damn lips are all I can look at. They look so goofy. Blasting pictures of their young children all over social media with 1,000 followers. My sister posted a pic of my new baby and tagged me in it. Started getting weird friend requests from people across the world out of nowhere. I hadn't had a friend request in 9 months. I had actually asked her not to post the pictures and she did anyway, so I never sent her a pic again. Wearing comfy shoes, like sneakers, to the club. I'm not mad at it, I'm mad my dumbass never did that, lol. Crying on the internet. I'm talking full on snot bubble crying. Maybe it's my childhood trauma talking, but I can't fathom having an awful thing happen to me and then whipping out my phone to tell my followers about it. Maybe BC I have no followers. I think there's also a massive difference between ending up in a situation where you become vulnerable and you don't hide it from others to see, or being in your room sad and deciding to start a stream showing your vulnerability. I think the first case can be a mature and healthy thing, not sure about the latter. Big, fluffy false eyelashes. I tried it once and it felt like caterpillars on my eyelids. They had to come off right away. I don't know how they stand it, but I admire their skill. Edit. Just wanna make it clear here, I'm not about shitting on the aesthetics of young people. You do you, my sweet children. It's just not for me. My generation laughed at Tammy Faye Baker's eyelashes. This generation aspires to them. It boggles me. Taking pictures of yourself all the time. Even as a younger person I can't imagine doing this. My niece takes pictures of herself crying to post online. I would never. Even in my most emo of days. Posting non-stop content and then caring so much about what strangers say about them online. As if life isn't difficult enough for women without finding new and unnecessary standards to hold yourself up to. It all seems like an exhausting, pointless and mentally draining exercise. Focusing on their social media appearance. The lighting, the posing, it's all for likes. Posting where they are, where they go. The complete transparency over their location floors me after being told not to tell people that stuff online. I worry that a lot of young people are too aware of their social media standing and appearance and aesthetic and are forgetting to find and love themselves for who they are. So, I teach high school math. My students have tracking apps so they can see exactly where their friends are at all times, and I think it's weird as hell. Someone was absent, so I asked where is Martha to nobody in particular. Well, her friend in class pulls out her phone and reply, oh. She should be here soon. She's in the 300 building bathroom. I find it incredibly creepy, but they have no issue with it. I am bewildered by women who do not prioritize the ability to support themselves. A constant refrain from me for my kids. Them, Dad, why do I need to learn how to do this? Me, because someday I'll be dead. I'm definitely not considered older woman yet, so Jay apologize as my view may not count, but one thing I've noticed since starting a new job and working with some 17-20-year-olds has given me a few yikes. One is the weird obsession with knowing where their partners is at all times. One girl threw a mini fit because her partner's Snapchat location wasn't on and she was scarily angry about it. And the weird glorification I've seen about being psycho is such a weird red flag. Amount of them boasting about borderline mentally abusive things or acts they do to their partners is fucking wild and frankly scares me a little. Truly, I knew a girl who heated up a fork on a stove and held it on her BFS on BC he was playing video games. When I told her that was abusive as fuck, the other women we worked with took up for her, saying the guy should pay attention to her instead of playing games. As a DV survivor, it was very disturbing. My ex would abuse me for not putting every ounce of attention on him. I couldn't help but think, then does that mean you people would agree with my ex? They are so good at makeup. I don't know if it's because they have better products, the availability of tutorial videos, or both, but they all look amazing, and we were walking around with orange faces and smudged eyeliner. Not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous. Edit. So many bitter people in these replies. Makeup is a hobby. It might not be one that you enjoy, but that doesn't invalidate it. We should respect and uplift all women and however they choose to express themselves, whether it's by wearing makeup and mini skirts or carhartts and axle grease. I had blue eyeshadow, blue eyeliner and blue mascara. I have blue eyes, so looked like something out of June. Not limited to women, but gender reveal parties. I already have to go to your baby shower, and now you want me to go to another party? Do I have to bring a gift? Not using barrier birth control is another. I wonder how much of that is the rise of IUDs and implants. The typical use effectiveness rate on those is so much higher than the pill that it could be a reasonable choice to not double up on protection with a long-term partner. For casual hookups though, I agree people should definitely be using a condom. I know STDs are very treatable nowadays, but still. Influencers and those who are influenced by them. It drives me crazy. So many of these influencers are just narcissistic idiots who really don't know anything, but if they are pretty and talk a good game, people follow them and believe in their brand. So much focus on body image, it's no wonder depression is spiking. Before I answer, what constitutes older? Older is 50 plus MO. But people are out here thinking 26 plus is old. Like what, question mark? Botox in their early 20s. There's nothing there. What wrinkles are you trying to fix? I'm 35 and recently got Botox injections all around my head and neck to help with migraines. The injections aren't in places that are noticeable except the top of my forehead. Now when I try to raise my eyebrows, I'm shocked, I just look mildly interested. I find it really amusing and keep saying shocking. It's a really odd feeling, and I think if it was anywhere around my mouth it would be a terrible sensation. Thought I'd share. I know a few 17-18 wild girls who have decided not to learn to drive or get licensed because their boyfriends always have cars, not to finish school because they don't enjoy it, and don't ever want to vote because that stuff's boring. They have these precious rights to be free, to be educated, to be heard, and they don't care. Regarding the car thing, we're in a semi-rural area with limited transport options. My sister-in-law is 25 and still doesn't have her license. It puts a serious strain on her relationship with my brother-in-law because she is so dependent on him. Following people on social media that just make them feel bad about themselves. Comparing yourself to a highly curated and damp, filtered persona is so damaging to self-esteem. Putting up with bullshit you know isn't okay. We all do this, but as 40-something it's painful to watch young women continue to just stay in abusive or even just frustrating imbalanced relationships. Realize your worth, ladies, sooner than later. I once had a 20-something woman tell me it was better to be in a bad marriage than single. I wanted to cry for her. Honey, no it is not. Life becomes really long when you're married to someone you hate. Especially once any children you had are grown and gone. The way young women seem to worry so much about their genitals appearance. To the point of surgery on their labia and bleaching their anus. I blame porn, I suppose, but I hate that these young women feel so judged that they need to resort to this. I wanted to mention the labia surgery as well. I'm not old, I'm in my 20s, but I see these women call the labia their roast beef and act like it being a little flappy is the worst thing on earth, and they get it cut off. I always wonder if it's about their partners as well, if they think it's gross. My answer is that any man who sees a hairy flappy etc vagina and thinks it's gross isn't mature enough to be having sex. There seems to be a hype culture about being a stripper or selling pics of one's feet on the internet. 14-year-olds are discussing how to best get a sugar daddy. Weird. And scary. I kinda hate the claw-like nails that are popular right now. This is real small, and makes me feel real ancient, but pulling their bathing suits up their butt cracks. It just looks so uncomfortable to me, but you'll do you. I'll sit over in my full coverage, granny bathing suit that's probably ugly, but I'll be comfy. My sister ages over not being able to find a good selection of bikinis that adequately cover her ass, so she can totally relate to you lol. In her words, is not walking around with a fucking wedgie too much to ask? Tracking each other on their phones with apps. I am both weirded out about this because I am a very private person, but also see why it would be hugely beneficial from a safety perspective to have your close friends be able to find out where you are, especially in your 20s when you're going on lots of dates, going out a lot. I ran around by myself a lot in my 20s and literally no one had any idea where I was. Looking back, that was pretty risky, but having anyone be able to track me would feel pretty uncomfortable, a boundary violation. Edit. I was specifically talking about when I've seen younger women share locations with friends. Not romantic partners. I don't see people in my groups doing that, thankfully. I'm only mid-30s, but I work with young people, and one thing I'm super impressed with is how much more confident young women are around periods, menstrual talk. I especially notice this around access to sports. And I'm so pleased. They are so much more confident to just ask for what accommodations they require, information they need to know. I'm really glad the taboo is slowly shifting in this area. I don't understand why girls want to inflate their lips. Also, girls with pointy long fingernails who have babies. I remember having an auntie with long fingernails and I used to hate holding her hand when I was tiny. Giving too much information out. I notice a lot of younger women are more lenient about being disrespected by their partners. Accepting it as a person just telling their truth. However, not understanding a person can be truthful without being an a-hole. The concept of my truth is super weird to me. There is the truth, things we have proven with evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. Then there is my beliefs, which are a collection of things I consider to be true, whether they are or not. But saying my truth is basically badgering other people with my beliefs and forcing them to agree with me for the sake of my feelings. Sending nudes and trusting the recipient. My niece was talking casually about how everyone in her friend group started sending nudes to each other over Snapchat when they were freshmen in high school. I had to have a very serious talk with her about how it's still child pornography and she could be in serious legal trouble from being a producer, distributor, and possessor of it. She thought I was joking because that's so stupid. We all consent to it. Yeah, but you're all minors, so your consent means approximately jack and shit, kid. How young they are getting buttocks, fillers, lip fillers. Reading these as a young woman. Not wearing sunscreen and still going tanning. My sister died at age 36 from skin cancer, and it is still a struggle to convince younger girls of all ethnicities to wear sunscreen and stop tanning. Use a fake tanner and love the skin you're in. I'm sorry about your sister. My son died from melanoma at 23, and he never got a tan. Incredibly long nails and over the top false eyelashes. I have no idea what young women are doing. Sending nudes to a guy online or sending him texts, DMs revealing intimate information they don't even know simply because the guy asked. Don't do it. There are so many male influencers and social media stars being exposed as creeps for getting young women to send nudes or mention personal info and then doxing them or doing revenge porn. Creating new body shaming trends like tight gap, nose gap, size of waist, etc. Things men don't even know exist. So it's purely and solely women creating absolute nightmare of beauty standards for other women. Growing up in the zeros, it was traumatic and I wish newer generations would have stopped. Can confirm, I have no idea what any of those things are. Sending nudes to men they are not dating. Talking to guys, just go on a few dates and decide if you want a relationship, for God's sake. All this we've been talking for a few months now is weird. I was friends with this girl, or at least I thought we were friends, who was like this. I ended up liking her, so I asked her on a date. We're just talking though. I asked her if she meant that she just wanted to be friends, and she blew up. Accused me of leading her on, got mad that I had been flirtatious with her, claiming I friend-zoned her, etc. What the fuck is we're just talking supposed to mean then? Lol. Why the need for 5 parties, 2 wedding dresses, B and C lists, and numerous other demands, just to get married? Like, just get married. It's not that complicated. Save the money, and more importantly, your guests and bridal party's money, for something that will actually mean something: charity, home down payment, personal enrichment in classes or travel, whatever. The sky is the limit. Spare yourself the time and stress of going overboard to follow the new cultural norms. Traditional, generational customs need not apply, though maybe they should be questioned and re-examined. Dating apps, wanting a relationship but feeling obligated to have sex quickly, because how else will you get to know each other and be in a relationship, and lip fillers just hardly ever look good. Oh, and the flared pants being back in, especially when it's just like a black legging material and the bottoms are fraying from dragging on the floor, reminds me of when I was a dorky 13-year-old. The lips. Please make it stop. Putting up with shit partners. When I was in my 20s, I dated around. Guy got too aggressive? Dump. Tried to change me? Dump. Lied? Dump. Married 20 years now, because I waited to find a good one. Stop asking how to change him or yourself. Dump and move on. I disagree with this one. I don't think this is exclusive to the younger generation. I think this is an eternal issue for women, and was even worse when women had barriers to financial independence in the first place. Women have only been able to have their own bank accounts and credit cards without a male cosigner since the 80s. Divorce also was more heavily frowned upon, and women were less likely to have their own careers or university's degrees a few decades ago. I think men and women always will suffer with putting up with shitty behavior to some degree, but I don't think women are putting up with it as much as women did in the past. Supporting each other. When I was a teenager, even the closest of girlfriend groups had a noticeable level of petty and competition. Now I hear my daughter and her friends talking, and the genuine love and support they constantly show for each other is amazing. The respect shines through. The performative nature of everything. Ask someone to dance? Have signs and cameras filming and gifts, they film everything. It's insane. There's no concept of privacy or events being just for them and their loved ones. It's like it's all a movie or play put on for the world to see 100% of the time. They don't seem to live their lives for themselves but for followers. It's really sad. Having children with men who are basically children themselves. If you're living with a guy and he doesn't do a genuine 50% of the housework, it will be exponentially worse when you have a baby. Not only that, but having kids with men who have no commitment to them. I know multiple young women who absolutely ruined their lives and tanked their futures by thinking having a baby for a guy would get him to commit, maybe even marry her, and take care of her and the kid's forever. I've almost never seen that work out. These women most often end up as miserable, desperate, struggling single mothers who spend years and years battling for even a pittance of child support for men who don't care if they even exist. I don't even advocate marriage for any religious reasons. I advocate for it simply because it makes it harder for the father to cut and run so easily. But choose carefully. Blows my mind. Get the ring in the house first, ladies. I'm almost 35. Does that make me qualified to post? Why do younger women put lipstick straight across the cupid's bow just like Kim Possible?